Hi guys, it's Prince from GG and Prince, and today we've got another variant of a Blue Eyes White Dragon deck profile. So this variant, actually this deck got inspired by one of the videos I saw of a Master Duel player on YouTube, Light Dragon Duel Enjoyer. He does a lot of really interesting and fun and sometimes competitive Blue Eyes decks. I got a lot of inspiration from him on this one. It is a Blue Eyes control deck, so you're going to be playing a lot of floodgates, a lot of interruptions that basically limit the scale and power of the board that your opponent can build. So you'll see as we get into it, we play a lot of powerful spells and traps, a lot of trap heavy in particular. And your extra deck actually is not really full of monsters that you're going to be summoning a whole lot. It's full of monsters that you want to send from extra deck to graveyard to get their graveyard effects. So as we go through the deck, you'll see what I mean. To start it off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Blue Eyes White Dragon, kind of a no-brainer here. It is a Blue Eyes White Dragon deck. I actually just got an upgraded rarity for this one, forgot to swap that in. This card kind of kicks things off. It's good to have in your graveyard, it's good to have on your field. As you'll see, we're going to be playing some skill drains in this deck, and having 3,000 attack monster is very useful there. We're playing 1 copy of Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon, just to get one more Blue Eyes name. Also, its effect to pop a monster on your opponent's up the field synergizes pretty well with probably the most important monster in the deck, your Blue Eyes Jet Dragon, which we're playing 2 copies. So as long as the Blue Eyes is on the field of the grave, this protects all of your other cards from destruction by card effects. And also, anytime a card is destroyed anywhere on the field, you can summon him from your hand or graveyard, so he has really good recursion. Having both on the field, actually very powerful. Your opponent can't destroy anything with card effects, basically. And if they try to attack one of these, you can just bounce the attacking monster back to your opponent's hand. So really good card to have. Then we're playing 3 copies of the Whitestone of Ancients. This is really to get probably the easiest way to get out a copy of Blue Eyes White Dragon or a Jet Dragon, since in the end phase, so this is in your graveyard, you can summon a Blue Eyes monster straight from your deck. Worst case scenario, you summon one of these, link it off for like a Link Karibo, as you'll see, and then in the end phase, get its effect, summon a Jet Dragon with a back row full of crazy traps. So that's it for the Blue Eyes monsters. We are playing 1 copy of Dogmatika Ecclesia, the Virtuous. She's really important. She searches one of your really powerful traps, Dogmatika Punishment, when she's normal or special summoned. You can actually add her to your hand from Nadir Servant, which is one of the spells that we're playing. I did mess around playing 2 copies of her, but she's so easy to get to. Your deck also has a lot of draw power and mill power. It's not necessary to play 2 of her, but you could definitely up her to 2 copies. For some hand traps, we are playing 2 copies of Droll and Lockbird, and 2 copies of Ash Blossom. So this is just to prevent your opponents from drawing. These 4 slots can kind of be mix and match depending on who you're facing up against. 3 Ash Blossoms, Ghost Bell, Effect Veiler, these are all good options that you could swap in for these slots. So this does it for the monster lineup. As you can see, not a ton of monsters. You're really trying to, load up on your power traps and powerful spells and use your Blue Eyes monsters to do most of the damage here. So let's move on to the spells. We're playing one of the 3 copies of one of the starter spells for the deck that I mentioned earlier, Nadir Servant. So Nadir Servant has kind of like a 2-for-1 actually. It allows you to send a monster from your extra deck to the graveyard, and then add a Dogmatika monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. So that would be your Ecclesia. Now, the monsters you can send, as you'll see when we get to the extra deck, they're pretty powerful. Some let you draw a card, some let you pop a card in your opponent's field, some let you bounce a opponent's card back to their hand. So depending on if you're going first or second, you have a lot of options when you activate this card. Keep in mind that as soon as this card resolves, you cannot special summon from the extra deck after that. So if you're going to be doing any extra deck summoning, any linking, or any fusion summoning, make sure to get that done before activating this. We're playing 1 copy of Bingo Machine Go. This helps get to whatever Blue Eyes cards you're missing, including an Ultimate Fusion, which is actually the next card that we're playing. I did mention that your extra deck is full of monsters that you're not going to be actually summoning, but there are a handful of some of the powerful Blue Eyes Fusion monsters that you could be summoning, and these help you get to those cards. Next up, we're playing 3 copies of Dragon Shrine. This is really important to help seed your graveyard with a Blue Eyes White Dragon. You can send your White Son of Ancients off of this. If you have White Son of Ancients already in there, you can send a Jet Dragon off of this. So pretty useful card all around to help just mill out your deck over cards that otherwise would be bricks in your hand. Speaking of bricks, as you saw, there are a couple level 8 monsters. So we're playing 3 copies of Trade-In for some added draw power. I mean, whether you discard a Blue Eyes White Dragon alternative or a Jet Dragon, those are all cards that are great to have in your graveyard since they enable a lot of your plays. So this is, basically a free discard and then a draw 2. So it's a good all-around card to have. To round out the spells, we're playing 1 copy of Harpie's Feather Duster to deal with some back row, and 1 copy of Called by the Grave to get rid of some pesky monsters in your opponent's graveyard, or even to protect your own plays from things like Ash Blossom or Ghost Spell. That does it for the spells. On to the traps. So the traps are actually where the real power of this deck comes out. So we're playing, to start off, probably one of the craziest interruptions actually, is Dogmatika Punishment. So what this card allows you to do is target a monster on your opponent's side of the field, send a monster from your extra deck that has equal or higher attack, and then destroy that opponent's monster. So a lot of the cards that you're playing in extra deck have effects that trigger when they go to the graveyard. So this is very easily a 2-for-1 card. So you can send, an Elder Entity Entis that lets you pop a card. You can send, like you'll see, there's other cards that you can send that have really good graveyard effects that synergize well with the other cards in this deck. We are playing 2 copies of True Light. So kind of the whole theme of this deck is kind of True Light control if you're able to get to it. So, what that means is basically have a Blue Eyes that's protected from targeting by your opponent's card effects by this card, and then just attack into your opponent's monsters with that Blue Eyes White Dragon. Having this out with Jet Dragon is also pretty powerful. Your Jet Dragon protects this from being destroyed. If this does get destroyed, it wipes your field, so you gotta play wisely when you have this card. We're playing 3 copies of Skill Drain, and here come the Floodgates. So this is obviously a very powerful card. You're not playing too many effect monsters, as you can see. Really the only one that you really care about its on-field effect activation is Dogmatika Ecclesia. Your Jet Dragon can summon itself from the graveyard, and if you have this plus a Jet Dragon, you basically have, another Blue Eyes, another 3,000 attack monster. We're playing 1 copy of Gozen Match. We have, almost entirely light monsters, so this is really helpful. It can hurt your opponent way more than it'll hurt you. Rivalry of Warlords, 1 copy. Again, you play a good amount of dragons. At least all the monsters you want to have on the field are going to be dragons. So this will hurt your opponent quite a bit more because it's a really powerful floodgate. There can be only 1. So really, the situation is you're going to probably be using one or the other of these 2. So it's really just depends on what kind of deck you're playing against. These could be sided out for, maybe more copies of True Light potentially, or some of the other traps that we're going to be playing. So for the Floodgate, the last one is 1 copy of Summon Limit. This, you're not going to be doing a ton of summoning during your turn, at most once or twice, and this helps stop a lot of combo decks that, like to summon quite a lot. You'll see actually, I'm not playing any Nibiru. This is basically your Nibiru. We're playing 1 copy of Ice Dragon's Prison. This is to help get rid of, a monster that is hard to destroy by card effect or can't be targeted. We're playing 1 copy of Imperm. You could bump this up into 2. We were talking about potentially siding out some of the Floodgate continuous traps. You could potentially play more of these. This is a dead card, though, if you have a Skill Drain face up on the field, since you can't activate it. There's no effect monsters that are live if Skill Drain's on the field, so that's another reason why I only play 1 of these. We also are playing a Tyrant Dragon, Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon in the extra deck, which, once it attacks, you can set a trap from your graveyard, so this is, in a sense, recyclable if you need to. We're then playing 2 traps that just say no. So we are playing 1 copy of Solemn Judgement and 1 copy of Solemn Strike. These are also resettable with your Tyrant Dragon. I did mess around with playing multiple copies of these, but the life point cost is just kind of high, especially if you're playing 3 Skill Drains, which arguably is a more effective card with the way this deck plays than these Solemn cards. But it's great to just have a counter trap that can just stop your opponent's play in their tracks. That does it for the traps and the main deck. On to the extra deck. So I did mention extra deck is full of monsters that you're going to want to be sending off of your Nadir Servant or your Dogmatika Punishment. One of that monsters actually is this Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. So not only can you pop, an opponent's boss monster, 4,500 attack with this card, it also has a pretty good graveyard effect that anytime your opponent tries to target one of your Blue Eyes monsters, you can banish this from your graveyard and negate that targeting effect. So, great card to send off Nadir Servant or Dogmatika Punishment, and also just a great card to have in your graveyard for protection for your Jet Dragon or your Blue Eyes White Dragon. We're then playing one copy of Blue Eyes Alternative Ultimate Dragon. If you end up being able to get 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons in play, you could summon any of these. These two you probably want to send to the graveyard off the the trap or spell effect. This is probably the one you want to summon since it has built-in protection. It can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects. It also has every turn it gets to pop either 1 card or 3 cards depending on what its fusion materials were. So, pretty powerful boss monster, but generally whenever I play this deck, I end up winning with just a Jet Dragon or a Blue Eyes or both. I don't actually need to be doing any fusion summoning. If I do end up doing any fusion summoning, most of the time I fuse into Blue Eyes Tyrant Dragon, of which we're playing 1 copy. It's unaffected by trap effect, so if this hits the field before your skill drain hits the field, you basically have an unaffected monster. It can attack all your opponent's monsters once each, and once per turn after it battles, you can reset a trap from your graveyard. So this with a skill drain face up and a Solemn Judgement that you just keep recycling is kind of hard to break through. So pretty good card there. We're then playing a couple of targets for sent to the graveyard. We're playing 1 Garura, which when sent to the graveyard lets you draw a card. So if you're going first, this is a good target to send off Nadir Servant. There's also Elder Entity Entis. When it's sent to the grave, you get to destroy one of your opponent's cards. So great interruption. This usually, if I'm activating a Dogmatika Punishment during my opponent's turn, this is oftentimes the card that I'm sending off of Dogmatika Punishment. We're then playing 1 copy of Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon. I don't really go into this too much, but it is makeable with this deck with your stone and one of your Blue Eyes monsters. It does have a built-in floodgate effect that neither player can special summon 2 more monsters at the same time. So it can stop things like pendulum decks. It can stop a lot of decks that allow you to summon several tokens just in one step. So it partly floodgate, but it also, the other reason I really like this card in this deck is it has it can negate graveyard effects or effects active in the graveyard. So negates are always good to have. We're then playing Golden Cloud Beast Malong. This is another target for your Nadir Servant and Dogmatika Punishment. So when this is sent to the graveyard, you can target a face-up card on your opponent's side of the field and bounce it back to the hand. So it's a good interruption. We are playing a small Zeus package. So we're playing Galaxy Eye Cipher Dragon, Galaxy Eyes Full Armor Photon Dragon, and Zeus. So the idea here is you Xyz into here with 2 materials, Xyz this on top of this, attack with a 4,000 attack monster, and then Xyz Zeus on top, and you have a 4 material Zeus. These cards also have pretty good effects on their own. You can steal a monster, and with this one you can detach a material to pop a card. So, decent cards in their own right. They're also fairly powerful. But if you're Xyzing into these, you're probably in a bit of trouble, and you probably need the Zeus. So, there is just extra tools in your toolbox. For the Link monsters, we're playing 1 Link Kuriboh. This is primarily to get your White Son of Ancients off the field into the graveyard. It does provide some protection as well, since you can turn an opponent's attacking monster's attack to 0 for that turn, so it does protect you a little bit. We are playing 1 copy of Hieratic Seal. We play some dragons. It's easy to link off into this. It also lets you summon a Jet Dragon from your deck if it's tributed. So you can tribute this, bounce a card, then summon a dragon from your deck. Really, really nice card to have. We're playing 1 IP Masquerena, and we're playing this mainly to get into 1 SP Little Knight, which is great interruption to have during your opponent's turn. You could make an IP, have a True Light back your Blue Eyes during your opponent's turn, and then quick effect, into link up into SP and get a banish. So as you can see, it's a pretty fun deck. I will link the video that inspired this deck in the description. feel free to comment on how you might try out this deck. It is kind of mean when you play it. It can shut down a lot of, at least a lot of the modern decks that rely heavily on monster effects and building up board presence. This basically just pops cards left and right, bounces things, negates monster effects, and it's tough to play against. I've actually played against this. I gave it to one of my friends and used actually a branded synchro deck against this, and I lost really badly. So it is tough to deal with, but it takes some practice to make sure you time your interruptions at the right choke point. But all in all, pretty interesting take on Blue Eyes, and I'm curious to see what you guys think. That's all for the deck profile. This is Prince from GG and Prince, signing off.